Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a bit different, really zooming in on just one small piece of text from a very old story.
Yeah, just the opening scene, really.
Exactly. So the scene is set. We've got this poor woodcutter, his wife, and their two kids, Hansel and Gretel. They live right by a huge forest.
And the key thing, right off the bat, is how poor they are. The text says they had little to bite and to break.
Really hits home, doesn't it? Not just low on food, but fundamentally lacking.
It's basic survival we're talking about.
And then things get, well, even worse. The story says, once, when great dearth fell on the land, he could no longer procure even daily bread.
So this isn't just their problem anymore, it's widespread, a famine.
Right. What does that tell us about their world, I mean?
Well, it suggests things were precarious, No safety nets. When things went bad, like a harvest failing, people were incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah, you really feel that vulnerability with the woodcutter. It mentions him tossing and turning at night in bed, full of
You
anxiety.
can almost picture it, the weight on him.
And he says to his wife, doesn't he? Something like,
Yeah, he asks, what is to become of us? How are we to feed our poor children when we no longer have anything, even for ourselves?
it's just raw desperation, isn't it?
Absolutely, a father's cry for help, almost.
So our mission today for this deep dive is really to unpack this moment. Before any witches or gingerbread houses, just this dark reality, the awful choice these parents feel they're facing.
It's about the poverty and what it forces them to consider. Okay, so he's desperate. What comes next?
Well, this is where it gets really quite chilling. The wife comes up with a plan.
A solution born from that desperation, perhaps, but yeah, horrifying.
Definitely horrifying. She suggests basically taking the kids deep into the forest, lighting a fire, giving them one last piece of bread.
And just leaving them there.
Yes, leaving them. It sounds incredibly harsh, almost pragmatic in a terrifying way.
It speaks volumes about how extreme things must have been, right? That this seems like the only option to her.
What kind of mindset leads to that?
Survival stripped bare, I think. Maybe she sees it as, well, two life sacrifice might mean the other two don't starve. Cold logic in a crisis.
But the father, he pushes back immediately. He says, no, wife, I will not do that. How can I bear to leave my children alone in the forest?
He thinks about the wild animals.
Exactly. The wild animals would soon come and tear them to pieces. His instinct is purely protective.
That's the core conflict right there, isn't it? Fatherly love versus just unbearable pressure.
He can't stomach the idea. Not easily.
No. But she keeps at him. Calls him a fool, essentially.
Yeah, she says, oh, you fool. Then we must all four die of hunger. You may as well plane the planks for our coffins.
Grim. Really grim.
And it says she left him no peace until he consented. She just wears him down.
Her argument, though brutal, is basically, it's this, or we all die. She sees no other path.
It highlights the sheer lack of options they must have felt they had.
Total perceived lack of alternatives.
And even when he agrees, you feel his pain. He says, but I feel very sorry for the poor children all the same.
He gives in, but his heart's clearly breaking.
It shows it wasn't a cool decision for him, was it? It was forced by circumstance.
Absolutely. Desperation, not lack of love.
So recapping this opening then. The central dilemma is this awful choice driven by extreme poverty. The idea they have to abandon their children.
And the father's struggle, his no, then his sorrowful yes, it just underlines the emotional horror of it all.
While the mother presents this stark, maybe pragmatic, maybe cruel perspective, seeing it as the only way they survive.
A chilling calculation in desperate times.
So maybe the thought to leave you with is this. What kind of choices can sheer desperation lead to? And how does this really old story opening still kind of tap into modern fears about survival?
Yeah, and maybe what other hidden struggles, what difficult truth might be lurking just beneath the surface of stories we think we know so well.